I saw massive mountains, 10 times the size of Everest. And then I started observing the people there. Happy, talkative, loving people. Interacting with each other. Hi, how are you today? That sort of thing, but they weren't saying, how are you today? Because everybody's fine in heaven. Um, the music. I explain the music in my books, in my videos on my own YouTube channel. And it's a repetitive tribal chant, which was everywhere. There was no speakers. So in this place, I learned again perspective, how to heal our memories. How
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel within. I am delighted to have Dr. Lynda Cramer with me from Australia, and I am excited to delve into her NDE. Linda has been a psychic medium from birth, and she was clinically dead for over 14 minutes when she had her NDE, our time, and since waking up, she has obtained full psychic abilities. Welcome, Dr. Kramer, and thank you so much for being here with
oh,
me today.
the, the honor is all mine, Mira. Thank you so much for wanting me. You know, as I just said to you off camera, it's not so much my experience that I get goosebumps from. It's gorgeous people like yourself doing amazing work where you've got that opportunity to get this word out there of not just what happens to us after death, but it's the hope of what happens after death, as well as what we learn from these experiences to incorporate into our lives when we return. So I'm so privileged to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
The feeling is definitely mutual. So let's get started, maybe with life before the NDE, so we get a little bit of context about you.
Sure. I was born in the 1960s. My dad was in the Air Force, so we had a big upbringing from the military life, moving around. I went to 9 schools. But from birth, I was quite ill. I was actually in hospital for most of the first 2 years of my life. Doctors told my parents that I'd need heart, lung, and kidney transplants, which back in the 60s, nobody ever survived those. So when I look back at my psychic life, I've always been a psychic person. I've always known things. I've always seen ghosts. Um, I knew things. You go to a house and you just know where the bathroom is, or you know they've got a pink kitchen, or you know that their dog is 8 years old. That sort of thing. I've always had that. And it was quite hard for me. It was difficult because no one else in my family truly understood what I was going through. So I had a lot of setbacks with my family. They didn't want me to use it. They didn't want to know about it when things happened, especially when I saw ghosts in the house. It scared them, obviously. So I see their perspective. Um, but I have done a lot of research into what happens when we get sick. I was a very sickly child, so of course, back then there was days Mum said that I was lifeless and blue. So of course, I believed that I had NDEs as a baby. Not that I truly remember them, but I am now the living testimony of those NDEs where I'm such a psychic person. So I grew up going to 9 schools, getting jobs after school. I met my first husband because I've been married twice, plus another relationship. And he used to always call me the witch. But I didn't really understand what I had because no one said, oh, you're a psychic. Or, oh, yes, this is called telepathy. Or this is called cognition. So I had no one guiding me. So it was in the late 80s. I'm watching TV and it's called the Montel Williams Show. And he had a special guest by the name of Sylvia Brown. And she sat there, this big, largish woman, telling Montel Williams all about her life as a psychic. And I am totally glued to the screen. Psychic? What's this word? Psychic. She's telling Montel this story that could have been my life. So I had something to go by. I had a purpose, if you want to call it that. So my first marriage ended up ending quite badly. And during the time of that marriage, I'd actually met my next husband. He was an American. So I went over to America and he said, basically, we'll get married, you get a life here, you can work here, we'll get your green card once we're married. He afforded me the opportunity to have a beautiful life in America. And honestly, I wanted to live there. It's a beautiful country. I was going to the library every day, researching immigration questions, the Constitution, presidents of the United States and what bills they brought in, what's their legacies, etc. It's because I truly did want to start a new life with this man. However, his dreams were not the same as mine. He didn't want to give me a green card. He didn't want to let me work. We got married and it turned extremely abusive. So 3 days before I actually died, he punched me across my left eye, closed fist, punched me. I was knocked out for about 3 to 5 minutes. And when I came back, I had the massive headache. I did have a concussion, and he just walked off into the bedroom and said, "You deserve that." Um, I was asking him to do my immigration paperwork, by the way, because it was due to be finalised because you only get a year to submit. So we got married in August, and this all happened in like the 2nd of May, 3rd of May, 2001. So on the 6th of May, I went to bed and I was extremely sick with stress. So I tell people I had a cold or a flu, basically because I don't want to trigger people's talking about domestic violence. I prefer to talk about the good things that happened instead of the bad things. I woke up about 2 o'clock on the 7th of, so it was the night of the 6th of May. I woke up and I couldn't breathe at all. But I walked to the bathroom, which I do have diagrams so people get an idea. Do you mind if I show some diagrams?
I would love it.
Yeah. So I have a diagram which is also in my book. So we've got a bedroom which is here, and just to get around here past the walk-in closet into where the bathroom is, that took me 10 minutes from the bedroom. I remember sitting on the toilet, which, we don't want to say I was dying to go to the toilet, but it's true. So I do try and joke about how severe this was. But I sat on the toilet, and the most scariest part was I just went to sleep. Next thing I know, I'm floating near the ceiling in the living room, which is way over here. Back in the living room. I was here in the living room. And here's the front door. And in through the front door, I'm watching the sheriff came in. And he walked past me and he went into where the bedroom is. And then some paramedics came in, two young men in their dark uniforms carrying bags of stuff. And I thought, oh, yeah, these are paramedics. I wasn't scared. I had no concern for my body that was now 3 rooms away. They walked through and I'm just observing. And it was so peaceful, calm, not a care in the world. I didn't even worry about how was I up near the ceiling because when I looked down, I had no feet. Where my knees were, it sort of just dissolved to where my feet were. So then a few minutes later, my husband, because we were married, my husband came out and I heard the whole conversation with the sheriff. I saw the sheriff, he actually had a button missing on his shirt. He had a limp and he was also using a blue coffee mug. Um, so he sat in this one chair in the living room because there was 5 chairs. He sat in this one chair and I saw everything he wrote in his notepad. And then two more paramedics came in and they had like a bigger bag of equipment and they go in. And then the two young ones came out. I watched them drag in and gurney. They put my body, because it's now no longer me, they put her on a gurney, which I wasn't aware of, because I saw them wheel me out, which wasn't me anymore. And it was calm, peaceful. So they took my body out of the room, which was 45 minutes because it's all in my medical files, which I show people. Here's my medical files, just so you know. So on the front there, there's one of the paramedic reports, but I've got all my scans, MRIs, everything from the hospital to prove that this was real. Um, and then I get this tap on my shoulder, and it's like, you've got to go now. But then, just as this happens, the front door opens and all these blue orbs come floating in. And they're surrounding me, floating around my head. They did not communicate. They did not collide with each other, so they obviously were talking to each other because they weren't hitting each other. And then after a few minutes of observing me, they all left. Like they all got told to leave. And then this tap on the shoulder. And next thing I know, I'm in this field of flowers. Hills, rolling hills, just like the scenes out of The Sound of Music with Julia Andrews in it, that movie, Julia Andrews. Rolling hills, not big, like treacherous climbs, just gentle rolling hills. Flowers everywhere. I could see a big city over in the distance with skyscrapers like 500 stories. Not like what we build here. These are massive buildings. I saw massive mountains, 10 times the size of Everest. And then I started observing the people there. Happy, talkative, loving people. Interacting with each other. Hi, how are you today? That sort of thing. But they weren't saying, how are you today? Because everybody's fine in heaven. Um, the music. I explain the music in my books, in my videos on my own YouTube channel. And it's a repetitive tribal chant, which was everywhere. There was no speakers. So then I start walking, and the flowers moved. They knew that I was energy, but they also knew that I thought that I would squash them when I walked. So these flowers moved to avoid me stepping on them, even though I would never step on them because I'm no longer a body, I'm now energy. So here we go into perspective. We see the other side of what the other person's feeling and thinking because everything there is one. Everybody knows what everyone else is thinking. And the beauty of it was we don't have to just stay in the body that we are. I saw a bear turn into a little boy. I saw two boys playing, they're rolling down the hill, and then one stood up and he turned into like a big dog, like a wolf type dog. I observed this woman as I'm walking through one of the cities, because I do end up walking everywhere because I'm there for so long. I'm following this woman. She's in this long black dress from probably, hundreds of years ago. I just call her medieval woman because it's this beautiful long dress. Her hair is up. She's got the hood on like the 1500s. They wore the hood over their hair. And instantly, I became her. I became this woman. So now I'm her and I could feel my hands because I've got these long princess, sort of like the sleeves I've got on today, but massive sleeves. And I've got my hands in there, walking gently down this cobbled road. And then I sense me behind me. And because everything there is so peripheral, panoramic, I could see myself walking behind this woman. But now I'm this woman. And then I saw this other woman, a medieval type too. And instantly she changed into a 1970s hippie with the mini skirt on, like Twiggy, with the short little bob. And I thought, wow, we can become what we think. So that's the first lesson well, the first lesson was perspective, learning that everything is one. We see the other side of what's going on. So if two people are talking, we know what the other's talking about. Then the second lesson I learned was what we think we create. So I'm in this place for such a long time. I climb the mountains, I'm in the cities, going through all the city, and then I get this tap on the shoulder again. And now I find myself in this church. I do have pictures of other things. They're in my book, so I'm just going through my photos here. Sorry, because I've missed a few of the photos. But now I
No.
find myself in this church. And as I walk into this church, it's so long, but right at the top are three beings. So here's my diagrams. I drew all my diagrams when I was in hospital after I woke up. Here's me, and I've got this box with all this energy coming out of it. And there's these three beings there. And they weren't humanoid, they were energy. And the energy, like a rainbow of energy, was coming upwards from the ground like a reverse waterfall. And when it got up to where their heads were, it was a revolving energy field, clockwise and anti-clockwise at the same time. But it was dimensional, so it was round. They never spoke to me, but what they did tele telecommunicate, like telepathy, I heard them say, "We are not here to judge." Instantly, it was like the psychic knowing. I was here to judge. I was here to judge all my memories, every action I'd ever done that was now contained in this box. So I opened the box and it was like Doctor Who's TARDIS. There was no walls, there was no sides, there was no floor. It was eternal inside this box. And inside there were millions of my memories, actions that I'd done. And they were contained in these little orbs with like a little video screen inside. So I picked one out, which I've got here. I'll show you another picture. Here's me holding one of these orbs of energy. They're round, and inside it's like a little picture. And this one that I'm depicting here is one I love talking about. It's me as a baby sitting on my grandmother's front lawn, and I'm pulling the tail of her white cat. Now, I know that I've been told previously, don't pull the cat's tail. So I knew it was wrong, but I did it anyway because I was a baby. But instantly, when I'm looking at this memory, I see the whole picture. A child, because it's now separate to me, child interacting with a cat. Pulling the tail, the cat meows and runs away. But then I become the baby. It's me as a child. And I'm sitting on the ground. I can feel my nappy on. I can feel the grass beneath my legs. And I can feel the cat's fur and I've got this giggle like, oh yeah, I'm going to pull the tail. So I've got that intention to do it. I pull the cat's tail and it meows, runs away. But then I come out of the scene and now I'm the cat. I can feel my whiskers. I can sense because I'm now feeling where there's little bugs in the grass, like a cat would sense. I could feel the fur between my ears. So in this place, I learned again perspective, how to heal our memories. How many memories did I heal? Probably 8 to 10,000, I estimate. And there was millions inside this box. millions. So I learnt our life review. It's
What
to,
were the memories from this lifetime only?
yes, yes, because I could see all these little like balls of energy with the videos. I saw memories when I was 16. I saw memories when I was 5. I went to the UK when I was 12. So there's me when I was in the UK at 12 because I died at 36. I saw heaps of memories of me there with my first husband. So it was all memories and actions of what I'd done throughout my whole life. So we have to heal this lifetime, which I call it karma. Karma, which I learnt here in the life review, is the realigning of cosmic energy. When we're good, we get it returned to us. When we're nasty, karma comes back. So I learnt very quickly doing my life review, never hurt anything again. I don't even stand on ants now because that was one of my memories that I healed. I became the ant and I see this huge shoe come down and then I'm squished and the pain. Oh my God, it was a horrendous memory because every pain is tenfold. Every joy is tenfold. So the good memories that we have, when we remember how happy we are, that's tenfold when we're doing our life review. One of my memories that I remember, I'm walking down the street and I just smiled at this man walking past, total stranger. But when I had to become him, and it was that gratitude of just, oh wow, she smiled at me. But then it's tenfold and you're seriously crying because it's so emotional that just a total stranger just smiled at you. So this is where I learnt my third lesson. Small acts of kindness truly create energy transference. And we do create an energy that emits from us just by simple tasks like smiling. So we don't have to go out and save the planet. Little simple things like a thought. Oh, it's a hot day. I should go out and put some water out for the wildlife. That thought is caring. So our thoughts are emotional reactions which create energy. So that's what I learnt during my life review. And then just as I'm getting comfortable there, because I've been there for, I'd say 18 months, doing memory after memory, I get this tap on my shoulder again. And now I find myself in this white space. No walls, no ceiling, no floors. Hard to imagine, but they do put it into a TV show. It's called Manifest, where a plane takes off and it lands 5 years later. It's a weird paranormal TV show. But in the last episode, when they actually do get off the plane and they walk into this space, it's all white. There's no floors, no ceiling, no walls or windows. That is virtually what I entered. I'm standing there and I'm not worried that there's no floor beneath my feet. And then over in the distance, I see someone. And as she walks towards me, she's getting bigger and bigger because there's no floor and there's no objects to say how far away she was, but she got bigger as she came closer to me. She wore a simple brown dress and she had long brown hair. She comes up to me and she says, "What are you doing here?" And I'm sort of taken back because I've been in heaven where I was there for possibly 2 years. Everyone was so nice. Then I was in my life review where everything was so nice, even all the bad memories that we've got to heal because it turns into good energy. And here's this woman abusing me, so, not swearing at me, but she's yelling at me. And I was so confused. And I said, "Well, I don't know where I am. Where are we?" And she calms herself down and she says, "Oh, my name is Karina, and I am your great, 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 great grandmother." What? So I'm really looking at her thinking, are you from my dad's side? Are you from my mum's side? Who are you related to again? Because I'm just in awe at this woman. But then she goes into her life, where she grew up, back in the early 1800s. She tells me over and over, stories upon stories, how they made an axe handle out of a tree, how they melted the metal to make the actual the axe head. She showed me how to make a device that goes over her shoulder and it folds up. And she took it down to the creek and it folds out it's like a little washing board where they used to wash their clothes. She showed me how they made houses with just a saw and an axe. A long time she spent telling me about her life. But then she started telling me about my life. She said, "You've got to go back because in 5 years you're having a daughter." And I thought, what? She said, Remember this date because this is the date you conceive your child." She told me about earthquakes. She told me about that tsunami that hit up in Indonesia. She told me about the volcano in New Zealand where 3 kilometers, she said, you will watch from a distance, watching as 3 miles of land is created on the island of Hawaii. I watched intently that day Kilauea was going off and they said, oh, yes, look, that's made 3 miles of new land has been formed. And I thought, she told me that in 2001. She told me I'd work with the police for 10 years, which I laughed at because with my health issues, how could I ever work for the police? But I did. I worked from the police from 2002 to 2012, which is 10 years. She said I'd have to take 2 years off to get through all the stress of the job, which I did because I got PTSD. And then she said, you're going to work as a first aid trainer for 2 years. And she said, it's important that you teach the people how to look after others. I was a first aid trainer January 2017 until 2019. No, sorry, 2015 to 2017. So that's exactly 2 years, January to January. 2 years, just like she said in 2001 when I died. She told me about COVID. She told me about what's coming after all this in the next couple of years, what's coming forward. And she said to me, you can't tell anyone about this experience for 20 years because no one will believe you. And now when we look back in history, if I'd come out back in 2001 saying that I died and went to heaven, who would have believed it? But look at now with beautiful people like yourself, Mira, doing channels where my message is now being heard. And then she told me all the other things I've got to do. But then at the end of all that, probably months and months and months after talking, you know, people say, how did I know it was months? Because if I ring a friend right now and we talk for an hour, I get off the phone and I think, okay, we spoke for that hour and I think about what was said. We spoke for probably a million times that. So it was like years, 2 years we spoke. But then she said, if you go in there, you can never go back. And I turned around and behind me was a tunnel. So there's my great, 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 great grandmother. And here's me in my pajamas because I died in my pajamas. And here's this tunnel with this big white light at the end. And it had energy coming out of it, like an attractive energy it was like a moth going into a flame. I wanted to go in there. It was a pull. I wanted to get pulled in. She said, if you go in there, you can never go back. She said, you've got to go back. You've got to go through what we want you to do. Which made me think, who is we? Who is we? So I said to her, how can I go back when I don't know how I got here? And she said, all you've got to do is think about it, which is that what we think we create. So as soon as I started thinking about the house, my bedroom, floating where I saw the sheriff and the paramedics coming in. Instantly, I'm in a hospital room and a nurse is pulling this blue tube out of my throat because I've been in a coma and I've got a blood pressure cuff on my arm that's really hurting because I haven't had pains for like 5 years. And I'm thinking, ow, what's that? And I hear this voice and she says, Lynda, if you can hear me, squeeze my hand, squeeze my hand. Welcome back to life. So the first day in ICU, after being in a coma for roughly a week, it was hard. I couldn't stand up, I couldn't drink, I've lost my voice. But the hardest thing was learning how to be in a body again. I didn't understand that we had to breathe because in heaven we don't have a body, so we don't have to breathe. So the nurse said, inhale, inhale. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, breathe in. And I went, oh my God, how often do I have to do that? I got this pain in my tummy. And the nurse said, how long has it been since you went to the bathroom? And I said to her, why would I go to the bathroom? And she said, well, go sit on the toilet and go to the toilet. And I said, what do you mean by go to the toilet? So I had to relearn how to urinate, how to burp, yawning, all these bodily functions. Crazy. I couldn't fathom eating. For the first week when I ate, I could actually feel every mouthful going down through my stomach. And I thought, oh my God, this is just so not right. But then psychic abilities were also there. A nurse came in day 2 and she said, how do you feel? And I said, well, I'm more concerned about Motley. She said, who's Motley? And I said, oh my God, you've been here all week telling me about your cat. He's got long grey hair. He's 14 years old. You took him to the vet. He's got kidney disease. It's $4,000 to get him fixed. You don't know whether to get a new kitten or to put Motley down. She said, Lynda, I do have a cat. His name is Motley. Everything you explained is true. I can't afford the vet bills because he's got kidney failure. But how did you know that? Because I haven't been here. This is my first day in ICU. I usually work down on floor 2. And then they put me into my own room. And I'm looking at these beautiful guests in my room, these people in my room. There was an old lady sitting in the chair at the end of my bed, man standing next to her, boy, a dog. There was like a Labrador dog. And the nurse came in and she said, how are you feeling? And I said, oh, I'm good. I'm just listening to these people. And she's looking around the room. What people? And I said, them. And I said to them, she can't see you for some reason. So if you can please knock on the glass to let her know you're here. The man went to the glass and he went bang, bang, bang. The glass shook. She ran out of the room and I never saw her again. Because now I'm seeing ghosts in my room. Hospitals are bad for me. I have to really put up my protections every time I go to hospitals because there's so many people there who don't know they've died and they're just waiting to be picked up. So they don't want to talk to me because they're waiting for their husbands, their wives, their daughters, their aunties, whoever's picking them up. So I went home, got driven home by my husband, and I'm sitting in the front yard while he's at work. And we had these big trees in the front yard. And I'm sitting there just sitting in the sun, and all of a sudden I hear, Lynda! So I look around and there's no one around me. And then I hear, Lynda! A lot harder, louder. And my ears pricked. And I realize it's coming from a tree about 10 feet to my left. And I look at this tree and I said, are you talking to me? So I thought, okay, let's test this. If you can hear me, please shake, because it was a still day, there was no breezes. I said, if you can hear me, please shake. Instantly, this whole tree did this quiver, and I think about 100 leaves came down all over me. I knew what was coming on the radio, what song was about to come on the radio. I'd walk and pick up my phone just as the phone would ring. I wake up like 30 seconds before someone rings me or texts me. I open the door just as someone's turning up. But then I've also got her, who's been with me my whole life. I believe she was the one who was tapping me on the shoulder in hospital. I believe that she was the one who woke up my husband because he said he was asleep that night I died. But he woke up because someone was banging on the wall above his head because our bed had a wall behind it. He said he came in and he found me lifeless and blue, so he called an ambulance. So I believe that's her that woke him up. Who is she? I talk about her in my book. So I've written a few books about all my experiences. So here's my book, 5 Years in Heaven. I've got this photo, which I've shown today. I talk about her as my first chapter. Who is this woman? Where I talk about all the great things that she's ever done for me. Who is this woman? I
Did you
have a
actually
photo.
did you
Yeah.
actually see her, Dr.
I've seen
Kramer? Okay.
I've seen her a few times. So thank you for saying that because here's a picture where she appeared at the pool. There's no water around her in the pool. I was at the pool with the public pool with my daughter, and the water comes up to about nearly neck level, and I'm like waddling, doing my exercises, and I hear Lynda turn around. There's no water in the pool. But I'm like this deep in water, but there's no water 10 feet from me. And there she is with all this energy coming out of her. And she says, "We think you're ready." And I looked at her and I said, "What am I ready for?" And she started laughing. And it echoed because we were in an enclosed big in-ground, underground pool. And about 3 days later, a man came to my house. And as I opened the door, he had a big rash on his shoulder. And I said to him, "Oh my God, I love your rat. Please come in." And he said, "Rat? Where? What?" And then this rat sits up, talks, and it says, "I may be just a rat, but I am this man's spirit guide and I am here to protect him." What? So I now see spirit guides. And I've had a lot of confirmations where people say, "Oh my God, I've always been drawn to that." Or the spiritual meaning of whatever animal or person that I see is so relevant to that person with what they're going through. So not only have I written this book about my experiences, where I went, what I saw with all my pictures in there, because I have pictures. So I've also got like the floor plan in there so people can visualize what I saw. I wrote a book called Spirit Guides and Life Paths Explained. What are spirit guides? Who can be spirit guides? Educational information. What are our life lessons? What are life contracts? So I explain all that. Then I've got ghosts explained because why me? But I've actually caught one of the most best ghost photos ever caught on camera. I was at a cemetery, so of course I'm going to use him in my book. So
Sure.
you want to
Yeah.
see a photo? You want to see a
Yeah.
photo?
Oh, wow.
So you can see teeth.
Yes.
He's wearing
Yes.
glasses, but there's 3 photos because I took 3 photos and I was the only one there. And he is so close to my camera, he would have been 3 foot in front of me. And when you look at those photos, there's no body. It's just his head in the photos. There's no body. So I've got Ghosts Explained is another book where I explain what are ghosts, what are spirits, how to communicate with them, what they can and can't do, why they stay, how do spirits come in from heaven. What we can say to them. So I've got do's and don'ts, questions answered, educational information. Then I've also got psychics explained. What are all our psychic abilities? So I talk about the science of thermodynamics, which is heat energy, how to get psychic abilities, how to get rid of them if we don't want them again. So I've got my NDE book, 5 Years in Heaven, which was also in a hard copy, Ghosts Explained, Psychics Explained, Spirit Guides and Life Paths Explained. And then just yesterday, on the 28th of December 2025, my new book just came out, and it's called The Self, oh my God, it's the Higher Self Meditation Handbook. How to connect to our higher self, how to let go of ego.
Congrats, Dr.
And
Kramer.
thank you. So now I've got 5 books coming that I've
Yeah,
got out.
and we
Um,
will include the links for them in the description.
Absolutely. I am such a generous person, Mira. I prefer people to come to me, email me and say, hey, how do I get a PDF? Because, you know, I don't like saying it, but when you use big sites like Amazon, they charge phenomenal money. And look at how we are in this world today. Everyone's broke. So I prefer people to just come to me, give me a small contribution through PayPal, and I reply, and I usually give all 5 of my books for free as a thank you for making a contribution. I also do psychic readings the same way. I don't have a set charge. I only ask for contributions of what people can afford. So I will send you all my links for my books and how to get a psychic reading from me. Um, but I'm so excited now that I finished this Higher Self Meditation Handbook because now I've got 2 new projects that I wanted to do. She told me don't bring them out for 20 years. The first one is Heaven's Energy Healing because what happened to me in 2017, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and in 2019, I was diagnosed with throat cancer. And using the energy from heaven, because I was there for so long, I've learned how to self-heal. Look how many people now are getting cancers, immunity disorders, blood clots, strokes, heart attacks, you name it. People are getting sicker for longer and more severe. So she told me 20 years ago not to bring this out until it was needed. And now it's time to get this out. So that book's coming out, Heaven Energy Healing. And then I'm working on part 2 of this book, which will be called Beyond 5 Years in Heaven, talking about conscious awareness, the eternity of our existence, soul information. So I'm excited for where I'm going. I've got my own YouTube channel with about 12,000 subscribers. And I love doing free tarot, free psychic days. So twice a week I do 2 lives where I do free psychic information for people. So anyone can come and watch those for free. I try my best, Mira, to bring out the best in other people. I am just an average person, no better or worse than anybody else. But why me? Because I'm in a position where they know I will act on their messages. And it makes me cry. It really does. Because when I think about the energy of heaven, how I felt when I was there, the love, the support, the forgiveness, we desperately need it here on this planet right now. They're creating so much hurt and pain. Absolute negative emotions are coming out at this point. Sorry, because it does make me cry because I get emotional about it. But when we truly try to be as kind as we can, even if it's just a thought, oh, I should walk over and put out some water for the ducks today or something, you know, that's a thought which becomes an intention, which becomes energy. energy is constant. If we look at thermodynamics and the law of conservation of energy and all those type of scientific theories, which I love to look at, that's why I've got a PhD. But I want other people to just realize their full potential isn't just working 9 to 5 for somebody else who will just sack them a week before Christmas without a second thought, like what's happening now. I want people to realize their self-worth, their self-value, and most importantly, how much they are loved. So that's my message, Mira. And I am so grateful that you're giving me the opportunity to share it.
Thank you very much, Linda, for sharing the beautiful messages. I have a few questions.
Sure.
In terms of coming back, did you have a choice or were you sent back? How did that evolve?
Oh, I could have easily gone into that tunnel. She told me if you go in there, you can never go back. And believe me, I wanted to go into that tunnel. So I don't know. Oh, she actually did tell me it was the reincarnation tunnel. So in my book, I have a chapter there about reincarnation and karma. Um, what I was told karma is, how it's a realignment of energy. Um, but I did have a choice, and I chose to come back, which is common with a lot of NDEs. When I woke up, because I've got all my medical files, I was flatlined twice while I was in ICU. So that's why I've got scars on my ankles because they strapped me to the bed because my body was convulsing. So I had opportunities there where I could have passed if I'd wanted to. It is free will. Everything in our life is free will. I believe in our soul contracts or life contracts, whatever we want to call them. We do give ourselves outs. You know, I was in a car accident when I was 20 and I broke my neck. That was a day where I could have left this world, but I decided not to under free will because I knew that my contract here, there was still more to do. So when people do die suddenly, car accidents or illnesses or whatever, or even when they've got an injury for 20 years, which is a different scenario, but we do contract ourselves to that. I just lost my dad a few months ago, and he was in an aged care facility for 4 years. And people say to me all the time, why did he sign up for that? Because he was needed, even if it was just to put food and pay the rent of the people who worked there. The people who worked there, because he was there had to be a janitor. Because he was there was a chef. Because he was there, someone was employed as a nurse. So we can't say what is our life purpose because sometimes we're here to help others become their life purpose as well.
That's a
So
beautiful perspective.
we all have free will, you know, and we have to just remember because we don't remember. We have to
Yeah,
remember that we signed up for everything that happens to us. Letting go of ego is the hardest thing. So hopefully my new book that just dropped yesterday, the Higher Self Meditation Handbook, letting go of ego, getting past all the constraints of this three-dimensional world, what we think in this material world, and starting to really look into ourselves and become our higher self. We become more psychic, more intuitive. We have better sleep patterns. We become healthier because we're living in a higher vibrational state, which is like the heaven energy. So all my books are interconnected. They all lead from one to the other because it's all part of who I am. You know, at this point, I've got 5 books. I know I'm going to have 7 because I've still got 2 that I want to do. But they're my biography, if you want to call them my biography, because it's all my experiences that I just share to hopefully, as I said, bring out the best in everybody who reads it.
that's remarkable. Did the three beings introduce themselves, Dr. Kramer?
No, they did not talk at all. The only thing I had was this voice in my head that said, "We are not here to judge." Thank you. It would be so nice if they said, "Oh, hi, I'm Archangel Michael. This is Gabriel." It would have been so nice if they said that, just to give me that peace of mind. But what I've learnt with spirit guides, and especially this one who works with me, this lady I've got, they don't need a name because, I look at my pen. We call it a pen. Like we call you Mira, we call me Linda. Our name becomes incomplete, if you want to call it incomplete. They're limited because a pen can only do so much things. A pen can't fly. You can't fly, and I can't fly. A pen can't swim. Oh, well, I can't swim. I don't know if you can or not. But a pen can't eat. But I can eat. So I've got different limitations, but that's all that they are because there's things that we don't do. These beings are everything. They're everything. They know everything. They are everything. So I prefer not to put names to them or a title because then they're limited, like my pen is limited in its capacity of what it can do. Yeah, so I prefer not to, I just call her her. Hey, and I call her you because we have this great rapport. She talks to me every day, you know. So I have some instances in my book of what she's done for me. Yesterday, I'm sitting here just yesterday. Because we started talking at 7 o'clock this morning, so there's no real messages coming through from her today. But last night I was sitting here and she said, go outside. Now, I live in a high-rise apartment and I've got a main road here. So I thought, she said, go outside, I'll go outside. I opened up my screen door, I went out on my balcony, and straight away, bang, I saw a car accident right in front of me. So she knew not just to say go outside, but she knew the time for me to get up, walk to the door, open the door, go out so that I witness this car accident. See what I mean?
Yeah, I
It's weird.
do.
It's
And also,
weird.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you talk about the name limitation, I remember, and you talked about our names as well. We get into method acting. And you said, it reminded me of when you said you saw Linda's body being wheeled out. You
Yeah.
disassociated with her. It's because at the end of our lives, when the curtain comes down, we realize we are not that Mira or Dr. Kramer,
No,
So
no.
just like
You
that with
know,
the names.
I'm brutally honest with people when they come to me for readings. And this lady contacted me one day and she said, I want to know that when I die, I'm going to see my husband again. And I looked at her and I said, which one? So I had to explain. Ego is about this life, but we've had thousands of lives. So she's had thousands of husbands, thousands of wives because we're not always female. She's probably got millions of children with all the different lives that she's had. You know, I did a past life regression on a man one day because I used to do it at my house. I don't do it anymore because I like doing it excuse me, I like doing it in person. This man came, and as he regressed, he became a messenger pigeon back in World War II. And I said, tell me what you see. And he said, I'm flying over water and I can feel my wings going up and down. And he said, oh my God, in front of me is all these white walls and there's like a castle. And I'm flying through the castle window and a guy puts me, this man in this, he explained the uniform, he puts me into a cage. So I did a little bit of research and he was describing coming over from France across the English Channel, the white cliffs of Dover with the castle there, and the uniform was exactly as he described World War II English people would have worn. We can't make this stuff up. So we're not always just human. I don't see just human spirit guides. I see a lot of animals. bears, rats. I've even seen a big tuna. My whole room filled up with water, and this tuna swam in, and it opens its mouth and it starts talking to me. So when we look at the spiritual meaning of a tuna, this person said, "Oh my God, I can't believe how relevant that is right now in my life." So I've got a big job mirror, you know. I don't charge for what I do. I prefer to just ask for respect and generosity if people can afford it. Because I know I had to work with the police for a reason. And I know when I left there with PTSD, I wasn't paid for a year and a half. And when you've got no money, it's extremely hard to pay bills. So my marriage fell apart. I got addictions, which I'm very proud that I got those addictions because I got out of those addictions. So now I help other people get out of theirs. I help people get through mental health. I help by giving support and encouragement to people who've got no money or lost their homes. So unless I've been there, how could I ever help others get out of the same situations? My life's been absolutely amazing, even though I've had two failed marriages. One of them killed me because that's what the sheriff said. It was attempted murder. Um, I've had illnesses that I've cured, car accidents, a plane crash. She's helped me that day. So I talk about that in my book. But I look at things in my life that people would say, "Oh my God, you've been through the wars." No, I haven't. It's our perspective on life. If we blame and we go victim mode on every bad thing that happens to us, we're never going to become better, loving people. So I appreciate when my world goes bad and down the toilet because it's an opportunity to sit there and say to myself, is this all I want to be today? I want to be better than this. So I'm going to go out, do a walk, say hello to some strangers, and be kind. Because the kinder we are, the more loving and generous we are from our heart. We create this love that does emit from like us, like a pheromone from us. And it does create better life for everybody. So
Thank
that's
you.
what I do.
Yeah. Thanks for
Yeah.
those reminders, Dr. Kramer. I have two
Yeah.
questions that I'd like to ask. What brings you
Sure.
joy and laughter these days?
Joy and laughter for me is, funny thing, I've only got two really good friends these days, which is like NDE psychology. You realize that you don't need a lot of people in your life anymore. I don't like loud music anymore. I don't like bright lights. I like sitting in the darkness because eyes get affected with NDEs. So I actually love being alone, my alone time, where I can, and I've been single now for 12 years, which really is my own device here. I've created that because I love being alone, where I decide what do I want to do today. Do I want to go to the movies? Because I love going to the movies by myself. Go for a walk in the park where I feed the ducks. I go to the local shopping centres. I go and see neighbours or whatever and just say, "Hey, how are you today? I just want to let you know I'm here if you need me." So being of service to others is what makes me happy. I find a lot of the day I'm on the computer at least 6 to 12 hours or 15 hours a day because I love helping other people.
That's
So
beautiful.
self-gratification for me isn't about me at all.
That's beautiful. What would you say to young Linda who's about to embark on the most beautiful adventure of her life?
Well, I remember the day I was marrying my first husband. I was walking down the aisle and I actually wanted to turn around and run because he was hitting me at that point. I had bruises going to work. He wasn't an overly affectionate person. He was very controlling. So I would go back to that day when I was 24 and I would say, get married today because your life is so desperately needed from what happens to you for the next 12 years.
What final message or blessing do you have for those listening, Dr. Kramer?
Oh, well, it's not a blessing, it's a thank you. Thank you for wanting to be something better than what you are today.
Thanks, Dr. Kramer, for being here with me today. And I hope everyone enjoys this as much as I did. Have
Oh,
a
thank you.
fantastic day.
Thank you so much for having me.